Hello, welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Kate Harper of the 61st District in Montgomery County, and I'm happy to tell you that I am broadcasting today from the Roth farm. It's right at the corner of 63 and 202 in Upper Gwinnett Township, and I'm sure you've passed it many times. But today we're going to talk about what goes on here. I'm fortunate to be joined by two people from Del Valle University, and they are Dr. Jackie Ricotta, who's a professor of horticulture, and Kristin Schenck, who actually runs the Roth Center for Sustainable Agriculture. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks, Kate.
Dr. Ricotta, we're sitting in front of your greenhouse, and what's in there?
Well, it's great to be here today. What you see today is part of a student project for a class called Commercial Vegetable Production that I teach at Del Valle. So the transplants were grown in the greenhouses on campus over the winter, and students came out here, and with the help of Kristin and our greenhouse manager John Long, we got the entire place planted. But I have to say, this is actually technically what's called a high tunnel. So it actually has no supplemental heating, no supplemental cooling, and we just get air through there by opening the doors and rolling up the sides.
And the sun, I guess, warms it up.
Absolutely. In the wintertime, it's great. You can actually grow a crop of cool season plants, things like lettuces, Swiss chard, things like that. They grow slowly, but it warms it up so much in there, as you said, that it's a great tool for farmers. And they're used all across Pennsylvania and the Northeast.
Well, you know, I'd like to talk about how they're grown here and how it's different from how chard might be grown somewhere else. Can you talk about that?
Well, this particular high tunnel is certified organic. So that means that we do not use any synthetic fertilizers. We haven't used any type of pesticides. There are some that are allowable in certified organic systems, but we haven't used any of it. So, and the soil that's in the beds is actually a mixture of an organic potting soil and some compost. And then the wood that actually forms the beds is a natural cedar. I believe Kristin was, or cypress, excuse me. Kristin sourced that because you can't use treated lumber in a certified organic system.
Right, and that's how we can walk right along there and pick up a piece of Swiss chard and eat it, right?
Absolutely.
Right now, what does the university use this for? I mean, how does it fit in with your educational mission?
Well, we do two things with it. We help train students here, so we bring them over for classes. So this, as I said, was a student project. And then Kristin has students who work for her. They were involved in the building of this. They're involved in taking care of it during the week along with Kristin. So, and then the yield is from inside of the high tunnel goes to our Hope for the Harvest, which is a charitable initiative where our products go to Fill Abundance.
Well, believe it or not, at the Capitol we also have a sustainable garden that we give to food banks when the vegetables grow up, usually July and August.
Right.
So I think that's great. Now let me talk a little bit about Del Valle. I know many of my viewers remember it as Delaware Valley College of Science and Agriculture, but things have changed, haven't they?
They certainly have. So it was April 8th when we officially became Delaware Valley University, which is a far cry from the National Farm School, the National Agricultural College. Those are all the names that we had in the past, but now we're Delaware Valley University. So
now, and I also know that although the main campus is right outside Doylestown, right?
Yes.
And you own this farm. Do you have any other satellite campuses?
Yes, we do. We actually have one more farm. It's called the Gemmel campus. It's in about 15 minutes from campus, also in Bucks County.
Okay, but farming's changed a lot in Bucks and Montgomery County, and it's pretty tough these days to find enough land to farm. What's your perception of that? Which way is it going?
It is hard to find land to farm on, although we are very blessed in Bucks County to have a lot of great soils, a lot of good land. I think if someone wanted to go into farming, there is land that's available. Such as this farm, this is preserved ground, so we can only use it for agricultural purposes. So there's been a lot of those kinds of efforts in Bucks County, and although land is definitely getting eaten up to build neighborhoods, certainly if someone wanted to have a farm, you can find it.
Right. Well, I would say that this is preserved. So often people ask me as they drive by on busy 202, what's going to go there? And I tell them something already is there. Okay, so let's talk to Kristin a little bit about what is here at the farm. If you're driving by on 202 and looking over, what are you going to see?
Well, if you're coming down 202 closer to Hancock Road, you'll see some of our vegetable production. In addition to the high tunnel, there's 2 deer-fenced vegetable plots. If it weren't for those deer fences, we wouldn't be able to grow a single thing.
Yes.
There are many deer here, and they would happily eat everything we planted. But we have about 5 acres total among our 3 areas dedicated to vegetable production. We have 35 acres of hay fields, and then on the other side of the farm. And then also on that side, closer to Welsh Road and 202, we have a herd of about 25 cows.
Right.
Cows.
Now, I've seen the cows. Is the hay you're producing for those cows?
Sometimes Del Val produces the hay for their own use, either for those cows or on campus. Since the cows are owned by somebody else, sometimes they buy an additional hay.
Okay, so the cows are owned by a private entity, and you
Right.
pasture them here.
Correct. Yes, they're owned by Tussock Sedge Farm of Blooming Glen. We have a partnership with them, and they essentially pasture them here, and we provide care for them. It gives our students a chance to learn rotational grazing and grass-fed beef operations without Del Val investing into an entire extra herd of cattle.
All right, and then the producer of those cattle can then say they are grass-fed.
Correct. Yep. They're only fed grass, no grain, and he's very cautious with his any additional use of antibiotics or other medical needs. He's very cautious with that. So the meat, then he takes the calves away, raises them to slaughter weight, and then we'll slaughter them at an outside facility and sell them at his store.
Okay, so my viewers always want to know, who are these guests I have, and how did they get where they are? So we'll start with you, Dr. Ricotta. You have a degree, I guess, in horticulture, right?
I do. I'm actually originally from Rochester, New York, and I graduated from Cornell University with a degree in horticulture. During college, I worked for a large seed company doing plant breeding. So that got me along with my education, it just got me so interested in the plant sciences, and I knew I wanted to go on to school. So I went on and got a master's degree from North Carolina State University, again in horticulture, and I worked for a vegetable extension specialist, learning all the intricacies of producing all different kinds of vegetables. I then went on to get a PhD from the University of Illinois, again in horticulture, and so I've really spent my whole life working and now teaching since 2000 at Del Val in horticulture.
All right, now many people, when they think horticulture, they think flowers, roses, that kind of thing, but that's not your specialty.
No, it's not. I've always specialized in vegetable crops, and in fact, one of the most the 2 influential things were, as an undergraduate at Cornell, I was actually a teaching assistant in an organic gardening class that taught students how to grow vegetables, because of course anybody can do it. It's a wonderful hobby to have. And then working for a seed company, I worked for vegetable breeders, so worked with onions and melons and squash, and I'm passionate about vegetables, about growing them, cooking them, and eating them, so it's a great fit for me.
All right, well, let's raise a little bit of a controversial topic. I've heard people complain that tomatoes just don't taste like tomatoes anymore. Why is that?
Well, the tomatoes that you purchase in the grocery store in the wintertime are grown primarily in Florida, and they're picked green, and then what they do is they ship them up here, and the tomatoes are exposed to ethylene gas. Now, ethylene is a natural plant hormone. It's in the tomato anyway, but what it does to a green tomato is it causes it to turn red, but it doesn't give you that nice vine-ripened flavor.
Okay.
So that's why, and one reason, especially in the winters, that tomatoes don't taste very good.
So it's not because they've been genetically altered or something to not taste good?
No, no. Tomatoes, right now, there are no genetically modified tomatoes in the marketplace.
Okay.
There just are not. Now, they have done traditional plant breeding to get higher yields, to get disease resistance, to get tomatoes that ship better. they haven't necessarily bred the tomatoes to taste good. So what a lot of times home gardeners will do, and you can find these at many farm markets and in CSAs, is people will grow heirloom tomatoes, the old varieties that haven't changed for a long time, and you can get really true great tomato flavor with those types of fruit.
Okay, and you also mentioned CSA. I guess that's a community supported agriculture.
Yes.
And we actually have one in the area. It's called Pennypack Farm.
I'm very familiar with Pennypack Farm. It is an awesome operation. We actually have placed students there working in our organic farmer certificate program, and we have an alumni who works there as well. So really, Pennypack is a great place.
All right, well, let's talk to Kristin a little bit. Tell me how you got here and what's your background. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Allentown area in Montgomery, and I went to community college, but really wanted to come to Del Val. So I'm actually a Del Val alum. I was in the commercial vegetable production major. Actually took classes with Dr. Ricotta.
How'd you do?
And
Excellent. Again, she's yep.
And as I was getting towards graduation, Dr. Ricotta, along with other faculty members, encouraged me to pursue graduate school. So I was able to go to the University of Connecticut for a Master of Science in Plant Science, specifically horticulture. Just before I had finished with that, I started looking at jobs. I was thinking maybe extension, but also farm managing jobs. And I saw that they had posted a new position for a sustainable ag manager. And I thought, oh, I'll try it. I was shocked they hired me.
So that's what you do. You're a resident here?
Correct.
Or, yes.
Yep. I
Right.
live on the farm. I manage the majority of what happens on the 140 acres of what's here. I don't get heavily involved in the hay production, but everything else pretty much, yes.
All right. And what does that involve? Like, what's a typical day for a farm manager at the Roth Center in Upper Gwinnett?
There is no such thing as typical.
Okay.
It changes quite seasonally. It changes with the days of the week. I supervise a student staff. I'm the only full-time staff member here, so
Do you have to bring the cows in and out? Is that part of your
right.
job?
So the cows,
Okay.
we bring the cows in and out. We move them around on the pasture.
But you don't have to milk them. They're not dairy cattle.
Right, correct.
Thank God.
No, thank goodness. They're beef cattle, so we don't have to milk them. It's about 6 months out of the year they're on pasture, so we're moving them almost daily.
So that they don't overgraze a pasture.
Correct,
That's what
yes.
you were talking about, teaching the students
Right,
about that.
exactly. Ideally, a pasture, you want to go in at 6 inches or even higher, and you want to take the cows out when you're at 3 inches. You don't want to graze it down to a nub. You're not doing your grass any favors. It'll take weeks before it recovers.
Okay.
But if you can take them off, like bring them through, let them graze, and bring them off quickly, the grass will come back quicker, and you'll have more pasture to use.
Now, this may sound like a dumb question, but do cows stay outside in the winter?
They do. They really are not in great need of shelter during the winter. The only time that they really truly need some shelter is if we had like a major sleet storm of some sort. They don't mind the wet, they don't mind the cold. They do like the shelter we give them, but they're fine. We have a 3-sided shelter barn that they stay in the wintertime, but it's relatively open. Like, we slide the doors open. We have a curtain on the back that opens
They can
up.
walk in and out?
Yeah, they can walk in and out. There's a small barnyard there, but they don't get access to the pasture in the wintertime.
All right. Now, I guess a question that occurred to me when you mentioned the deer fence, because in this area we have more deer than gardeners, I
Yes.
think, but all gardeners are worried about it. Have
Yes.
you guys found any secret techniques for keeping the deer out of the vegetable garden?
No secret techniques. Honestly, the deer fence is our best defense against that. I've had deer eat the flowers in the beds around the houses. I mean, even things right by the busy road.
They come right up to
Oh,
202.
Oh,
and
they
eat-
do. They come right out to the traffic light. You would think they wouldn't like to stand there, but they do. So yeah, they eat the flowers. So I honestly just try to plant things that they're less interested in as far as ornamentals go. But vegetable production, yeah, it's all behind the fence. And I'm forever telling students, make sure you close the gate.
Right, so the deer can't run in or jump in or something.
Right. They generally won't jump an 8-foot fence. They probably could if they were really pushed.
They'll
but
jump a
they're-
6-foot fence,
Yes.
as I can attest.
Yes. But an 8-foot fence would be a bit more of a challenge for them.
All right, good. So hold that thought. We'll try to come up with some other deer techniques and talk a little bit more to my guests from the Delaware Valley University. We're here at the Roth Farm, the corner of 63 and 202, talking about sustainable farming. We'll be right back after a short break.
Did you know that Violet Oakley was the first female artist to receive a large commission for artwork done in a United States Capitol building? In 1902, Joseph Houston, designer and architect for the 3rd Harrisburg Capitol building, commissioned Violet Oakley to paint murals for the governor's reception room. He believed that Oakley's contribution would add interest to the building and act as an encouragement of women of the state. Prior to beginning her work for the Capitol, Oakley set out to England to conduct research for her murals. Upon return, she decided to center her artwork on William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. Oakley made sure that Penn's ideals of justice and peace could be seen throughout her work. In 1906, she completed 13 murals titled The Founding of the State of Liberty Spiritual and was placed in sequential order around the governor's reception room. These murals were some of the first to be installed in the Capitol. When Edwin Austin Abbey, another artist for the Capitol, died in 1911, Oakley was offered another opportunity to create murals for the unfinished Senate and Supreme Court chambers. Her work on the Senate murals, including International Understanding, was completed by 1919. Oakley then completed the Supreme Court murals, including the Divine Law, by 1927. Oakley is said to be the principal artist for the Capitol, with a total of 43 murals on display. She remains one of the greatest muralists in the United States. Now you know.
I'm State Representative Kate Harper from the 61st District in Montgomery County, and I'm here at the Roth Center for Sustainable Agriculture. You might know it as the Roth Farm, on the corner of 63 and 202 and running all the way to Hancock Road. And my guests today are Dr. Jackie Ricotta, who was a doctor of horticulture at the university, Del Valle University, and Kristin Schenck, an alum of the university and currently the manager of the farm property. So we're talking about farming in Montgomery and Bucks County in southeastern PA, and the deer are not the only challenge I know. But you know, it's really nice for me to be able to interview 2 women in farming. So let's talk about that, Doctor. Do you see a future for women in farming in southeastern PA?
Absolutely. In fact, I think statistics show that there are more women going into farming right now than men. There's definitely a trend towards smaller, sustainable and/or organic farming at a scale which is definitely manageable by women. And so many of the farms that I know of in Bucks County are farmed by women. So it's actually a great career choice. It gives you a lot of autonomy. You can, if you're a good manager, you can manage your workload. And
no punching a clock?
No, absolutely not. Some long hours in the summer, but certainly it's a very nurturing type of job. It can give you a lot of career satisfaction.
All right, and I'll ask Kristin, since you're a recent alum, how about your friends that you went to school with at Del Valle? Are they employed?
They are. Most of the horticulture graduates or other plant science graduates have done very well for themselves. Some are running their own farms. A couple of them have gone back to their family farms and are able to pick it up and kind of make it their own. Some of them have, most of them have other outside jobs that they're doing in addition to farming, just getting themselves on their feet financially. A few of them have switched careers, but some have gone into natural resources management. Let's see. Some of them have gone on to grad school.
I was actually surprised to find out from a farmer in our area that they commonly use computers to plot where they're planting things. I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you have a larger a plot and a larger tractor, certainly.
Right.
It's not something you commonly see on a little tractor, though.
I recently took students to Tinicum CSA. It's a fairly new farm. Some two guys running it, younger guys, and it was incredible the type of spreadsheets that they had to manage their workload. So everything was on Excel, their budgets were on their phones. Farming is definitely, like everything else, really going high tech.
And it's not your grandfather's farm anymore.
No.
It's not.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about Delaware Valley, your university. What does that mean?
Well, technically, a university means that you have graduate programs. So we've added a number of graduate programs, and we have one program that's actually a doctoral program. So you have to have that as well by the rules of Pennsylvania Department of Education. So not only did we add the programs, but we went through an extensive application process and evaluation, and ultimately they granted us university status.
So that just means you can offer more things to students who go to the university.
Yes, and I think that what our hope is that it will we'll be able to recruit more students from overseas. Definitely globalism is something that every school wants to aspire to, so having the university is something that may help us in that regard. And of course it's great to have graduate programs as well.
All right, now it seems to me, and either of you could answer this if you like, as a consumer, it seems to me that there is more demand for organic vegetables. People are paying more attention to their diet, and also grass-fed beef. Would you say that that's true?
I would say in general, I certainly don't know the statistics on it, but yes, in general. And it's amazing how many questions people ask. I mean, people stop by here all the time asking specifics about gardening or where they can find certain supplies. People are into having backyard chickens again.
Right, there is a big uptick in backyard chickens.
Yes.
I was surprised, but that's true.
It is true. So it's
Do you have chickens here?
I don't at the moment. We do have plans to have more, again, pastured poultry. Something on the scale that a small farm can manage, 50 to 100 birds, not a multi-thousand flock operation.
Well, 50 to 100 birds sounds like a lot of chickens to me, but I'm a suburbanite, so what do I know, right?
Sure.
So what about you, Doctor? Do you think there's been an uptick in the demand for people who know how to do things organically and more vegetable gardening?
I think definitely there's an uptick in the demand for organic foods. If you look at the statistics over the last 20 years, organic food has grown at a rate that is unparalleled by conventional food, and that continues. So people now are more interested in what they eat, but also how it was produced. A government agency that makes the recommendation for nutrition guidelines, we've seen the food pyramid, we've seen the plate. This year came out...
The food pyramid upside down, I think.
Right, but they've
changed a lot.
Exactly, it's all changed, but also what they added to their guidelines for this year was to look at how the food was actually produced, what goes into it. So, you know, we're hearing these messages all over the place about not wanting antibiotics in our meat, about wanting food that's fresh and wholesome, and the consumer is responding because that's, you know, they're voting with their dollars.
I actually know a poultry farmer in Montgomery County who drives to Manhattan every morning with his free-range organic eggs, and they're also kosher.
Oh,
and
wow.
You would think, what, you have to drive to Manhattan every morning, but it's worth it for him because he's got a market in Manhattan of people who want to buy those free-range organic kosher eggs. Amazing.
It is amazing, and it's a great thing because there's the opportunity for people who want to go into this area. I get more jobs coming across my email than I ever have. It seems like every few days I'm forwarding something to our career services because everyone wants to know, do we have graduates? I got one this morning.
Right now, that surprises me. I would have thought, and please don't be offended by this, I would have thought Del Val College of Science and Agriculture, bet they go out of business any minute. Not happening, right?
I hope not.
because there is a demand for these new types of farming. Who would have thought?
Right. Not too many years ago, the pick-your-own strawberry farms and so forth were really struggling to get a market and get people interested. But now they've got new interest. You know, they've spruced up their roadside stands a little bit. People do like it.
I have to say the high tunnels are something I see a lot of. Is that making it easier to do farming?
Yes, it is. What it allows farmers to do is what's called season extension. High tunnels are generally not expensive structures because, again, there's no supplemental heating and cooling. So you can plant earlier in the season and then keep your plants in here later in the season. So again, extend so that you have product, whether it's for your CSA or for your market, for a much longer period of time.
Well, I have to say, from a zoning perspective, it's been a puzzle to many communities how to treat these structures. And at the state government level in the legislature, we've actually had to clarify that they're agricultural buildings.
Yes, and these are really temporary structures. There's just merely, like, there's no foundation. It's merely some poles driven into the ground. And so if you really wanted to, it would be a little hard, but you could yank the poles out and move this. And we have moved to high tunnels at the college.
So tell me a little bit about what is in this high tunnel greenhouse. Like, tell me, what are you growing in there?
Well, right now, because we started this about 6-7 weeks ago,
March
they're
18th.
cool. They're what are called cool season crops. So we have cabbage, both the red cabbage and green cabbage. We have broccoli. We have Swiss chard. We did have spinach. We had some kale. We have radishes.
Broccoli, did you mention
Yes,
that?
we
I
have,
saw that.
yeah, the broccoli's developing. So all the cool season crops. Now as the weather obviously is turning warmer, I saw that Kristin had added some tomatoes. So we'll finish up with the cool season crops.
Yes, again in the fall, the cool season crops will go back in probably about September with the idea of overwintering some of that stuff.
Is there any advantage to growing your tomatoes in the high tunnel as opposed to, in your backyard around here?
It keeps them a lot cleaner. You have a
Okay.
better chance of controlling moisture, especially if you have a rainy summer. You can cut down on excess rain coming down if you're
Sure.
using trickle irrigation underneath. So you have a cleaner product. You have a chance for less fungal issues as long as you keep your airflow, like don't plant too tight so that you can get good airflow between the plants.
And I also see their raised beds. I know I'm not much of a gardener, but I know that is also all the rage.
It is.
What's so cool about raised beds? Why does that work?
Well, in this case, it worked out well for making use of a relatively wet plot. We were
Okay.
able to build it up with crushed stone and add the raised bed so that we could get up out of the wet.
Well, I do have to tell you, you are right next to Spring House. And
We are.
as we say here, we don't call it Spring House for nothing.
Exactly.
Okay? It's a very high water table in this area.
Exactly. So in our case, it was a wonderful way for us to deal with it. Not every farm is going to do that. Most people are going to do their high tunnels just on the ground. They're going to be growing straight into the ground.
Okay, and I also noticed it looks as though you have it irrigated. You have
Yes.
it irrigated. What's in there for irrigation?
It's city water, town water, and it's a trickle irrigation system, which means that I run a pipe from the hydrant, and then there's small tapes coming off of those header lines that like one drip hole every 12 inches.
So the
and it
water
just
drips
trickles
out through the little
Yeah,
holes.
kind of like an old-fashioned soaker hose, but just a lot
Okay.
of them.
All right, and then in the heat of the summer, and it is a little warm today, but in the heat of the summer, does it get too hot in there for the plants?
We'll find out. We've debated on adding
Maybe a
some
little.
vents on the top in order to let, like passive vents to let out some additional heat. We do have the option of putting a shade cloth over the top, which we very well may do. It's like
Okay.
a knitted black fabric, very
blunt the
loosely.
sun.
Yeah, just to blunt the sun a little bit. And I mean, as you can see, there's not 100% transmission of light through
Right.
there anyway, so that helps a little. But yeah, at some point the temperature is going to be a challenge.
All right, and then Dr. Ricotta, because we're running out of time, where does the food go when you grow it in here? It's very good. I actually had a little sample myself.
So this will go to Philabundance, and Del Val has a partnership with Philabundance to produce food so that families in need can get fresh, healthy produce.
All right, that's a good goal too. All right, well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. I'm State Representative Kate Harper from the 61st District in Montgomery County, and my guests today have been Dr. Jackie Ricotta, who's a professor of horticulture at Delaware Valley University, and Kristin Schenck, who's in charge of the Roth Center for Sustainable Agriculture that some of you might know as the old Roth Farm. If you have any questions about what you've seen today, feel free to contact me. The information will be shown on your screen in just a moment, and come back again for another edition of Legislative Report.